Swell Season Surf Radio is recorded by the NewsStand Studio at Rockefeller Center in the heart of Manhattan and is distributed by WAX.Radio. Hello and welcome to Swell Season Surf Radio, Art and Design Series. I'm your co-host, Tyler Breuer.
And I'm Chris Labzda.
Chris is a partner in crime for these Art and Design Series. Chris Coffin, unfortunately, can't join us for this episode. He fell down the stairs and concussed himself. So, and it's not very dramatic otherwise how he did it, right, Chris?
Yeah, he basically slid down a flight of 4 stairs on his head. So he's doing all right, though. He's recovering, and he'll be with us on the next podcast.
Yeah, he's just a little bummed he's not allowed to drink, unfortunately, while recovering. So, but we have an awesome guest, Chris. Our guest for this episode, he's a mixed media artist, focused primarily on sea and coastline as his subject. Who is our guest for this episode?
Well, Ty Williams. Ty Williams is an amazing artist, and I'm glad we finally got him on the podcast. I'm stoked.
So, Chris, what when you were thinking of artists, for that we could invite onto Swell Season, what made you think of Ty? Why did you want him on the show?
Well, with Ty, he's been on my radar for a number of years now through mutual friends, such as Ed Fladone down in Mexico, who runs Manana, and even Ben McBrien, who's a mutual friend who was always kind of mentioning surfing with him up in Maine, I believe, and kind of just understanding that scene. And the more I looked at his work, I thought it was interesting in the fact that he is welcomed in the surf world as much as the fine art world, the design world, and he kind of has carved out his own little space between all of those, it seems. And I thought he'd be a good guy to pick his brain and see how he, perceives his own position within the art world, the surf world, design world. And just an interesting guy all around, and he comes well recommended from everybody. So,
yeah, I thought he's going to be a great guest because he's really quick-witted and a little sarcastic and got a pretty good sense of humor. So, without further ado, why don't we bring on our guest for this episode, Mr. Ty Williams. Ty Williams, welcome to Swell Season. Is it weird hearing yourself like in third person? You're like, I'm here, guys. Like, you talk to me.
Sorry about that. I don't know when to speak, so I'm like, yeah. It's I'm really honored to be here. I love this podcast, so I'm excited to be here. Hearing myself it's different coming out of my mouth than just inside my head. So it's good. I really got to hone in my Morgan Freeman voice. Hopefully you can do that post. Yeah.
So, in researching a lot of your stuff, Ty, I watched a shit ton of videos that have been done on you. And the big, really important question that I have is, how many times have you had to open up the barn doors for filmmakers at your place in Maine?
Yeah, I know. It gets pretty cringy, but it is a thing, and it's kind of like if you're from Maine, you have to crack a lobster. But since I don't eat lobster, it's barn doors. But yeah, I'm glad you noticed it because I noticed it, my partner notices it, and my parents notice it, and the barn doors notice it. So yeah.
Your parents must be like, again with the barn doors? What, were you raised in a barn?
It keeps them well greased. But yeah, the barn doors, the farm gets utilized a lot. It's pretty idyllic, and I was really fortunate to get to be raised there, and now I'm the middle-aged child that goes and pesters my parents and uses it as a base when I want to go surf Maine. So It's okay.
It's
That's
a stunning.
fantastic.
Go on, Chris.
Is that right in like York? I saw the Cape Nedic Lobster Pound in there. I was wondering if it was right there.
Yeah. So I'm from a little town that very rarely people know of. It's called South Berwick, and we're actually the agricultural side of York. So, that's so like that beach, York. That's the beach that I grew up on. That would be the equivalent of like I'm like 8 to 9 miles away. Cape Nedic Lobster Pound. That would be the summertime work spot. Like growing up in high school, it was either that or the spot that I worked, which was Bob's Clam Hut in Kittery. Another really, it's not a white tablecloth kind of spot, but it's good if you want to get your fried clams. I'm from a little horse farm in South Berwick. My parents are inland by a little bit, but maybe 15 minutes driving slow to the beach.
Not bad. So you grew up surfing basically long sands and all the fun little points around the area.
Exactly. Yep, That's it. Or, if I felt like it, I would drive down. At the time, learning how to surf, I was around 12. There were more surfers in New Hampshire at the time than Maine. So it's a really close drive. If you know the region, you can get to New Hampshire in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes to get to like Hampton. And so that was kind of where I would go actually, because the Surf Shops and Rainbows was the shop that I really liked going into at the time, although we did have a great shop, Liquid Dreams in Maine, but just to be around surf and surf culture. So, but then of course, as we all know, it changed over the years, and now we have people everywhere, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So
sort of.
Don't have to travel for a crowd. I don't have to travel for a crowd. It came to me. I wanted company so bad growing up, and then I really got it.
Be careful for what you wish for.
Yep.
I know. But yes. I did grow up. Long Sands was very much so, and still is occasionally, kind of like a spot that I'll go to, and other spots around our zone are just really reliable and just, relatively user-friendly.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. My family's taken it upon ourselves to do like usually a fall trip every year now. We go up there and stay at the York Harbor Inn, just kind of cruise.
Oh, wow.
It's nice. Yeah.
I know. Wow. That's awesome.
Family friendly, you know?
It is. Sure, yeah. And then, because then it closes, usually like, again, the summertime gig is like you go till Labor Day, and then a lot of the students at the time, when I was working at the restaurants, it was like, then you split and go off to college and the places close. Some of them stay open till October, which is probably similar for you guys down in New York. It's like local summer happens. And so that's kind of, probably shouldn't say it on a podcast, but I think everyone knows it's kind of the like magical time. So that's the time I really am excited to be in Maine. It's like kind of that early autumn because, those places have kind of cleared out and you still have the temperature and the restaurants are still relatively open. So, it's a beautiful spot.
Now, you grew up though, like also in the Virgin Islands. Like how long?
Yeah.
How long? What part of your life was spent there, for the most part?
So the beginning until 12. My parents are New Englanders, and like a lot of New Englanders, did the snowbird thing, but really they dove in deep with the snowbird thing and decided to buy property in the Virgin Islands, St. John to be specific. And so, they went down there, and there was a lot of New Englanders going into the Caribbean, and as there still are, like, and the same with New York, like Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. They had friends that were buying property that kind of turned them onto a piece of property. They went down. I was really small, and they stayed off and on between there and using Florida as the mainland in case, hurricane stuff was happening. And like many people, my grandparents were in Florida, so my mom's parents were there. So that was a safe place to kind of get a taste of, mainland life. And we did that until I was 12. And then ultimately, I think the hurricanes every year and then school opportunities, my mom was really just like, hey, I'm ready to go back to New England. And my dad is a yes guy, is a lovely man. And he was like, all right, Wendy. And so we did. And they sold their house in the Virgin Islands. And we moved back to New England. So it was a shocker. When you're
what were they doing like work-wise down there then? Like, how did they go to owning like a horse farm?
Yeah. Ultimately, my dad's a builder by trade. He grew up building and or carpentry, and so he went down there and got a piece of property and was like, "Oh, we could build." And it's wild for me to think about it now because I know it's so popular and I would love to get into it. But he basically built a 2-unit so that we lived above a rental, and then they were kind of like the early Airbnb, except you'd put the like cool little flyer that my mom would illustrate down at the ferry boat dock in Cruise Bay, and if tourists came. And so I loved it as a little kid because there were always families coming to stay down below us, and I was always getting turned on to like what the cool movies were or what the toys were from the mainland. But it was a money-making venture eventually because they ended up flipping it and doing it a couple times there. So throughout the duration of the 12 years, I think we moved 3 times. He would flip it and ultimately do that. But it wasn't like a company-based thing. He was just my dad singularly just kind of bootstrapping it.
That's incredible.
But then, my mom's a horseback rider. So, yeah, she was just like, I want to have horses. It's my dream, and can't really have them on St. John. So the moral of the story is my dad's a really lovely man.
He knows he's well trained. He knows who to listen to,
exactly.
And like Chris and I have had to learn probably me more so than you, Chris. Like know what side our bread is buttered.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's it.
But you came from 2 creative parents. Then it sounds like they were thinking outside the box, doing exciting things back then, and setting you up. But I did a little bit of research kind of on the background. You kind of started off skating, right? And that's what kind of brought you to the art world, if one might say?
Big time. Yeah. I got my first skateboard, and it's like, I think this is probably how a lot of people feel with whatever activities they get into at a like formative age, like every single dimension, color, all of it. Looking at it in the catalog, it was just like burned red hot in my mind. It was like a CCS catalog, or at this time it was CCM, I believe, or CSS. And
CSS.
It was CSS, and it was a New Deal skateboard, the bovine with like the cow on the bottom, and it was the era of like the wheels that were obnoxiously small. I basically, as the way I would come to anything is just other kids would come and visit, and I would end up they'd leave things behind, and someone left behind Celebrity Tropical Fish, which was a Powell video. Another one was Propaganda, and then the Vision Alphabet Soup, I believe, skate video. They were VHS tapes, and I just saw those and was like, all right, there's not really like a skate park, but we have asphalt in the driveway. I need to get a skateboard, and I just was enamored with it, and ordered one off one of those catalogs. And it's funny to think about now because I think about the learning curve of how like difficult skateboarding is, and also surfing, and how I don't want to be doing those things now, like to start new activities at my age now. But I'm really like happy that I chose those because they exploded in like a broccoli head of opportunity for me. But the skateboard really was the catalyst for everything. I mean, that driveway was just a flat, crappy, cracked driveway, but just to be like, I have to learn to ollie, and I have to find other friends to skate with, and if they don't skate yet, I need to get them skating so I have a friend. I guess it's the common thing. It just gives someone back to.
Back then, there was no internet or anything. You just kind of meet kids, and then there's like kids from other towns who could heel flip, and you guys didn't figure that out yet.
Exactly.
Like that.
I'm getting nostalgic thinking about it because it's like, you froth. You get to school and someone's like, some kid's dad made them a half pipe, and you're just like, we have to figure out how to get a ride to that house. And like the house could be so sketchy. Like, like that kid's dad, whatever, might have a blinking anklet and not be allowed to be around. Who knows? And you're just like, we got to go. And you're telling your parents you got to go. And now I'm like, man, that's, I do really reminisce about that stuff. But the skateboarding, obviously, the graphics, the culture behind it, of course, the artists at the time, my mom, being an amazing parent, let me subscribe to like a bunch of mags because that's how stuff came because we didn't have the internet. So Thrasher and Transworld both were coming to the house. So I was chopping those up and sticking them to the walls, and definitely seeing, Ed and Neil Blender and Thomas and all of it, and of course the Gons and all that stuff. So it's like, I want to do all facets of this. I want to skate, but I also want to like listen to this music and scribble these things.
Now, I was reading like you